A woman is dressing up in front of the mirror in the bathroom, unaware that danger is lurking nearby. When she steps out of the bathroom with her makeup done beautifully, she sees the living room carpet covered in wet footprints. Mistaking them for her husband's return, she goes to the door to check. Suddenly, a bloody corpse falls from behind the door, and her husband, stabbed multiple times, is dead. Panicked, the woman picks up the phone to call the police, only to find that the phone line has been cut. At this moment, a burly man wearing a stocking mask and covered in blood approaches her with a sharp knife. Soon, the woman is forced onto the bed and stabbed several times by the man. However, the next second, the woman stands up in pain, struggling to knock over the dressing table, toppling the bookshelf, and pulling down the tablecloth and curtains, refusing to die. But there is not a drop of blood on her body. It turns out that this is just the shooting scene of a low-budget horror movie, and the director, who can no longer stand the actress's crazy improvisation, finally calls for a stop. Taking advantage of the director's explanation to the actress, the prop master, who is the young and beautiful Emily, quickly steps forward and reminds the actor playing the murderer with sign language that he forgot to puncture the blood bag just now. Emily, who is a mute, can hear but cannot speak. The assistant director is her sister, named Sophie. Emily, Sophie, and her husband, named Alexander, came to Moscow from the United States to shoot this movie. Besides the three of them, everyone else on the set is Russian. The director was about to reshoot the scene just now when the scene suddenly fell into darkness. The producer told Alexander that they never work overtime and always leave work on time. The director had no choice but to leave work with his wife Sophie and Emily. Before leaving, Emily suddenly remembered that she had something left on the set, so she let Sophie and Alexander go ahead, and she went back to get it. However, when Emily was alone on the floor looking for things, the doorman thought everyone had left and also left work, and he also locked the courtyard door by hand. Emily found a phone and dialed Sophie's number, leaving a message for the other party to come and pick her up by tapping the receiver. After hanging up the phone, Emily heard a strange sound coming from the studio downstairs, so she followed the sound to the downstairs to check. As a result, she found that 3 people were secretly shooting a pornographic movie downstairs. Emily was a bit shy and just watched from a distance in the dark. Suddenly, the shooting scene on the bed changed, and the actor on the bed directly tied up the actress, then took out a knife from under the pillow and stabbed it into the other party's chest, and blood splashed out immediately. Experienced Emily saw at a glance that this was not a play, but a real murder. She was so scared that she turned around and ran, but accidentally knocked over a clothes rack, and the sound alarmed the photographer who was filming. The other party stopped his work and followed Emily to the second floor. Emily hid in the corner, trembling with fear. At the end of the corridor, there is an iron door leading to the outside, and the key to the iron door is hanging on the wall next to it. Taking advantage of the photographer entering the room to search, Emily rushed to the door and got the key. But before she could open the door, the photographer who heard the movement came back to the corridor. Emily, who couldn't open the door in time, could only sneak into the stairwell from the side door. However, the actor who just killed someone also came up the stairs. Seeing that there was no way out, Emily hurriedly hid in the abandoned elevator shaft on the side. But because she was too nervous, the key to the iron door that she had finally got was accidentally dropped into the bottom of the well. Without this key, there is no way to leave this building. Emily could only climb down carefully to find the key. The elevator shaft is usually used as a garbage dump, and it is filled with black garbage bags below. In the dim environment, the key can't be seen at all. Emily searched for a long time, but not only did she not find anything, but she also attracted the photographer and the actor. The two came over with flashlights to check. Emily quickly blocked herself with a garbage bag, and by the light of the flashlight, she was shocked to find that the bag next to her contained the actress's head and body parts. Emily was scared out of her wits, but the light of the flashlight also let her see the key on the ground. After the two left, Emily picked up the key and prepared to return to the second-floor corridor. As a result, the footsteps startled the alert photographer again. But Emily didn't care much at this time and ran wildly to the exit. Just as she opened the door, the photographer caught up and pushed the iron door hard, knocking her downstairs. Emily felt a bit confused, and the photographer immediately chased downstairs, pressing Emily and preparing to kill her. Just at this moment, Sophie arrived at the scene. The photographer had to stop for the time being, falsely claiming that Emily had fallen down by herself, and urged Sophie to call an ambulance. Emily struggled desperately, but could only make a silent cry for help. Fortunately, when Sophie was about to leave to call for help, she finally saw the abnormality of her sister. She pushed away the photographer and let Emily explain in sign language. Emily hurriedly gestured 2 words, police and murder. After understanding, Sophie hurriedly called the police, and the police arrived at the scene quickly. However, in the face of the police's inquiry, the photographer and the actor were not panicked at all. Both said that the scene just now was just shooting, and if there was really a murder, how could they dare to shoot it with the camera? The police checked the film and found that it was just a common horror movie segment. There was no woman's head and body parts in the garbage heap, only a twisted mask and some life garbage covered with prop blood. There was no evidence that a murder had occurred here, and even Emily herself began to doubt whether she had seen it wrong. The police who were unable to investigate left the scene soon, and Emily was sent home by Sophie. However, just after she took a bath and recovered a bit of mood, she heard someone ringing the doorbell. Emily buckled the security chain and opened the door cautiously to look outside, and found that the person who came was the actor, who was obviously not good-intentioned. Emily hurriedly locked the door and called Sophie for help. But before she could leave a complete call for help, the actor broke in with an electric drill. In a panic, Emily hid in the bathroom. Looking at the bathtub full of water, she suddenly had an idea. Just as the actor was about to break the door, Emily suddenly opened the door, and the other party couldn't break in time and hit the wall and fell into the bathtub. Emily seized the opportunity and threw the open hair dryer into the water, which made the actor lose consciousness. But she didn't have time to run away, and the photographer also chased here. The other party pressed Emily on the table and raised the dagger. At the critical moment, a strange man rushed to the scene, knocked out the photographer, and saved Emily. The man took Emily and fled in his car. On the way, he told Emily that he was a detective named James. The photographer and the actor who were chasing Emily were hired by a mafia boss named Henry. They specialize in shooting all kinds of bizarre movies, and the tape recorded the criminal evidence of the boss. But now that tape is missing. The mafia suspects that Emily took the tape. So James reminded Emily to hand over the thing to himself as soon as possible, otherwise, it would still bring disaster. Emily felt confused. Where did she see any tape? Suddenly she remembered that she had knocked over a clothes rack in the studio, and there was a woman's bag hanging on the clothes rack. At that time, it seemed that something fell from the bag and slid into the gap under the wardrobe. Now it seems that the falling thing should be the tape Henry is looking for. Emily just wanted to write down the location of the tape, and found that James didn't stop to ask for support when passing a police car. The alert Emily immediately began to doubt the other party's identity. She immediately grabbed James's hand, forcing the other party to stop the car and let herself leave. Don't forget that our Emily is a prop master, good at using various props. However, as soon as she got out of the car, she found that it was more dangerous outside, and she had fallen into the siege of the mafia. At the critical moment, James saved Emily again. He explained that he was a police mole in the mafia. As long as he could get that tape, his undercover mission would be successfully completed. With no other choice, Emily could only believe the other party, and the two quickly came to the studio and found the tape under the wardrobe. But just at this time, the second master of the mafia, named George, suddenly killed with a gun and grabbed Emily. James smiled and showed a sinister villain's face to Emily. It seems that it was just a false alarm, and James is really an undercover. Soon, Sophie and Alexander also arrived at the studio. It turned out that the two found abnormalities in Emily's home and chased here. Seeing the unfamiliar James, Sophie mistakenly thought that the other party was the murderer who hurt her sister, so she picked up a prop and attacked James directly and called for Emily to run quickly. Emily listened to Sophie's words, pushed the door and ran out, but she didn't expect that the door was surrounded by the mafia. The mafia boss immediately ordered James to come out and solve Emily. This time James didn't hesitate and fired several shots at Emily, and Emily's chest immediately exploded with blood and fell in a pool of blood. The boss was satisfied and left with his men. Not long after everyone left, Emily, who was lying on the ground, opened her eyes. It turned out that the previous scene was just a play between her and James. Don't forget that our Emily is a prop master, good at using blood bag props. Just when everyone was relieved to escape a disaster, James suddenly thought of an important question. Why didn't the mafia boss take the tape? It turned out that Alexander accidentally pressed the remote control and detonated the blood that hadn't exploded on Emily. Fortunately, it was another false alarm. After the crisis was resolved, James tied George to his car and prepared to take him back to the police station to report. But when the car started, Emily found that George's expression was extremely frightened, as if he was extremely afraid of the car. Emily immediately realized that there was danger, and she desperately made gestures to remind James to get out of the car. Smart James also quickly reacted and jumped out in time before the car exploded. It turned out that the boss didn't take the tape, but was ready to destroy the evidence and James together. Unfortunately, his plan failed. This film is called Mute Witness and was released in 1994. The movie is short and powerful, with the elements of thriller and chase far greater than the suspense part. The rhythm is very strong, and it is not dragging at all. The IQ of the female protagonist is also rare to be online throughout the whole process, and it can be called a fine thriller movie. Well, that's it for today. If you like suspense, crime, and thriller movies, remember to like and follow, and we will see you next time.